What is the best way to figure out what fonts are used in a document? Well, one way is to use Bridge. Most people don't know that you can use Bridge to find a list of all the fonts in a document. I'll click on my InDesign document here in Bridge and look at the metadata panel. And down here you'll see a list of my fonts. Chaparral, Minion, Myriad, Times. Now I happen to know that Times is not in my document, but for some reason Bridge always wants to put Times in there. It's very frustrating. So you can ignore Times, but the other fonts are there. Now let's go to InDesign and take a look at another way you can look for your fonts. I'll double-click on the document, takes me to InDesign and opens the document, and I want to point out a feature underneath the Type menu called Find Font. The Find Font feature lists all the fonts that are actually used in this document. Chaparral, Minion, Myriad, and so on. One of the coolest features of the Find Font dialog box is the More Info button. When I click on that and then choose a font from the list, it gives me all kinds of information down here about that font. Now, some of it is technical and you can pretty much ignore it, but some of it is actually quite interesting. For example, it shows me the path for the font. That is, where is this font on my computer? This can be kind of useful when troubleshooting font problems, but it's especially useful when you have more than one version of a font on your computer. That's right, fonts can have multiple versions. That's why there's a version field up here. This tells me exactly which version of this font I'm using. Now, even more relevant is the character count down here. I can see that there are 568 characters in this document that use this font. Now, I don't really need to know the exact number of characters, but it is useful in another instance. For example, up here, I'll click on Minion Pro. Now, I didn't think I used Minion Pro Italic in this document, at least I didn't mean to, but when I look in the More Info field here, I can see that there's a character count of 1. That's interesting. I also see that it does not show up in any of my paragraph styles. And I can see that that one instance, that one character, is on page 3. I know the type is very small, you have to squint to see it, but if you really look, there's some good stuff there. So what is that one character? Let's go check it out. I'm going to click Find First, and it takes me right to it. It's a little bit hard to see on this, so I'll click Done and then zoom into 400% with Command 4 or Control 4 on Windows. And I can see that there is one character. In fact, it's the invisible carriage return character, which is in the wrong font. Now that happens sometimes, and it won't print incorrectly, but we can take care of it just to clean things up. I could change that font up in the control panel, but in this case, I'm going to go back to Find Font, and I'm going to change it here. I'll click on Minion Pro Italic, and I'm going to tell the Find Font dialog box to change it to something I am using. In this case, Chaparral. I'll just type Chaparral font family in here, leave this set to regular, and then click Change All. It goes through the whole document, changes all instances of that font, in this case just that one, and look what happened in my fonts and document list. That font went away. Now I'm going to do this one more time by changing the Myriad Pro Regular to Chaparral Pro Italic. Let's try that. There we go. It's supposed to be Chaparral Pro Italic. I can pull that out of the menu here or just type it in myself. Now in this case, I'm going to turn on the Redefine Style when changing all checkbox. That ensures that InDesign doesn't just change the font on my document page, but it actually goes inside my paragraph and character styles and changes the font in there too. I'll be talking about styles in a later chapter, but suffice it to say this is a very important thing if there are any character or paragraph styles that might use that font. I'll go ahead and click Change All, and it changed it for me. Now everything is in the font that I wanted. Sometimes you'll open an InDesign document and you'll get an alert saying that you don't have one or more fonts in the document. That alert gives you the choice to open Find Font so you can search for the missing fonts and replace them with fonts that you do have. Find Font is so useful that I use it as a pre-flighting tool. I almost always check Find Font before printing a document or making a PDF. You would be surprised at how often the wrong fonts sneak in.